Hey, ambitious dentist. I have a really special treat for you today. Today, I'm on the other side of the mic, yet again with Dr. Panks Dhingra. So Dr. Dhingra is a really great guy. He's a friend of mine. He's reached out to me to learn a little bit more about the dental podcasting community. He's recently launched a really useful platform called Podcasts of Dentistry, or Pods. Dr. Dhingra really loves dentistry. He loves the podcast world. And he is really doing a lot to try and help out dentists around the country. And so you really need to go out there and support him, because he's doing a really good job of doing everything and trying to help out his dental industry. And so basically, Pods is like a search engine where you can find all of your favorite podcasts by dental professionals by searching for their name. In addition to being an easy way to find great dental podcasts, Dr. Dhingra has included the many books and resources recommended on your favorite shows, which is really helpful. And so Dr. Dhingra asked to interview me, and I happily said yes. We cover a ton in our conversation, from podcasting to my accounting business to the state of the dental community. And I think you'll really enjoy this interview posted with his permission. And in our conversation, you're going to learn the lessons I've learned from producing over 90 episodes of the Start Your Dental Practice podcast, how I became involved in the dental industry as a CPA, why podcasting is the best way to improve as a public speaker, and some of the tools and resources I use for my podcast and business, as well as a whole lot more. So be sure to check out Podcasts of Dentistry to discover even more great dental podcasts. Now, here's the interview.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for, accepting the invitation to be a part of Podcasts of Dentistry. As I said, this whole thing is just to know all the podcasters around. I was trying to do certain things with podcasting, with all you friends who are doing podcasting, but it wasn't appealing to me. Forget about being appealing to you. So finally, after much deliberation myself, I said, okay, you know what? This seems right. I should reach out to my, some initial friends like you. And again, thank you for accepting it. The whole thing started off this so-called podcasting when Dr. Alan Mead from Dental Hacks, he actually encouraged me, hey man, you should go ahead and do podcasting and things like that.
And he loves turning people into podcasting. That is absolutely for certain. He is a huge piece of the dental podcasting industry, no doubt.
And the funny thing is, he doesn't even know yet that I'm trying to do something like that. I thought I'll start with few people, then I'll bring in the big guy.
The big guy, Alan Mead.
The big guy, because he knows much more about podcasting than me, especially. I don't know about you, but especially me.
No, everything I know, I learned from him. So I learned it from watching him.
Right. So I don't know if you know anything about me. I'm just a general dentist. I've been practicing since 2012 from Pennsylvania. I was in most part. Then I moved to Connecticut, opened up my dental office here. And then, as I said, I've been going around to do podcasting or something in podcasting or in dentistry for such a long time, but never get to it. So now I have this podcastsofdentistry.com where I have all the podcasts which you just search for, basically. You go in there, if you're looking for Jonathan Van Horn, you just type in, and everything related to you in the podcasting word will come up right there.
Sure.
So basically, you click the link, you follow one person or follow one topic or whatever, and that's where this website comes into picture. As I said, I'm from NYU. I graduated in 2012, and I do pretty much general dentistry. Some implants, regular general dentistry, and I opened up this dental office in Connecticut in 2016. Seems like I have a little more extra time. That's why I'm getting into podcasting now.
So you got the office in 2016, and now you're just kind of getting to the groove of things. I'm sure of that initial just giant tidal wave of junk you got to deal with when you become a new business owner, right?
Exactly. I've been helped by some of my friends who have other dental offices.
Mm-hmm.
So they're a big part in in getting me where I am right now.
Great, perfect, yeah. So you got is that a ATR 2100 that you're talking about? Yeah. Dr. Mead.
You want to hear?
It's the same thing Dr. Mead gave me. So told me.
Right. And do you not know the story about how I got it?
How's that?
Alan Mead.
Yeah. That's who told me to get too. I was looking at like, $400 or $500 microphones because I was working off of one of these, which is a Blue Yeti
Blue
microphone,
Yeti.
which I
Yeah.
use every day. I like it a lot because I can be on one side of the room and be talking, and whoever's on the other side can hear me. So I'll use that for my phone calls. I use it for talking with my team whenever we're
Yeah.
meeting virtually and things like that. I'll have people in the office. We'll do conference calls with it. It's fantastic. It's a very versatile microphone. But for podcast, like it just didn't have that, just that really good sound to it. And like if the air conditioning was going, there was always a hum in the background. And so I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
my solution is to go buy, spend $1,000. And Dr. Mita was like, no, 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 don't do that. Just buy this like $80 microphone, and
Right.
it's a different style microphone, and you'll be fine for what you're wanting to accomplish. And
Sure.
so I said, sure, and I did that, and he told me to get one of these Zooms, which I think is what he told me to get, which is right here.
Right.
Uh,
Right.
and that's what I record my podcast on now. So yeah,
Cool.
all Dr.
Well,
Mead.
and I should tell you one more amazing thing about this specific microphone. This was the microphone which was used by Alan Mead to interview Dr. Rick Workman from Heartland Dental.
Oh, nice.
So,
So it's got the
so
touch, it's got the feel.
it's,
You have
it's
no
got a feel
excuse.
to
Yes,
it.
the experience. He's with us in spirit as well
Yeah.
as many other reasons. Sure, I'm sure he's probably listening to this now. So
Yeah. So anyway, so I think we had that initial conversation. Let's talk about your podcast.
okay.
You know, you usually talk about start your dental practice with Jonathan Van Horn. So how would you describe your podcast in 20 seconds or less?
In 20 seconds or less, we talk to world-class dentists, entrepreneurs, consultants, business people about how to go from being a non-practice owner to becoming a practice owner, and try and give as much information as possible to be able to help with that. We also deal a lot with after that transition, what happens after you acquire a practice, once you've started up a practice, to be able to optimize to be as successful in the business of dentistry as possible. And it's a bunch of really informal conversations to where it's easy to listen to. It's like you're hanging out and just at a bar, hanging out with people, and people are talking back and forth. It's that kind of stuff. Like it's not super salesy, pitchy, or super
Yeah,
polished or anything like that. Because that's how I like to talk to people, rather than trying to do it in any other fashion. So yeah, that's it. Probably more than 20 seconds,
sure.
but
Yeah. So you are a CPA,
mm-hmm.
and turning into, I mean, I have so many questions, but that's why I'm getting confused. But my question is, how did you move from being a CPA to the dental industry? What made you switch?
Well, I mean, the thing I tell most people is that I moved from the number 2 most exciting profession in the world, which is the CPA world, into the number 1 most exciting, which is the dental world, right? But all joking aside, I own a dental CPA firm. It's called Dentist Metrics. So we help around 100 clients in about 20 different states automate their accounting, give really powerful financial reports, make sure that they're paying the least amount of money in taxes as possible, as well as making sure they're not having any tax surprises come tax time. And so that is what our company is. I started out the company as an outsourced CFO company for dental practices. So these practices that you're wanting to grow to 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 locations, or through mergers and acquisitions, or someone's wanting to make a really decent practice, really good practice, be a really great big practice. That was what our company started off doing, was helping people with that. For the first year and a half of our business, I was literally sitting inside of dental practices watching dentistry every day, watching the ebbs and flows of patients coming in, patients coming out, and really trying to figure out like why some practices, were doing, like $1 million gross, and one guy was netting, 500 grand, and the next guy was netting 250 grand. Like, what was the difference in those two people when everything on the surface seemed to be exactly the same? And so that was kind of the mystery that we set out to try and solve. And as we were going through that, like I was reaching out to a bunch of different consultants in the industry, a bunch of different people in the industry, trying to, figure out the industry better, just learn more from other people that had more experience. And for, literally a year, I was just talking to people every week, almost every day, that, probably knew more than me. And we I was trying to learn from them to try and help my clients as best as I could. And, eventually I said, hey, these conversations are pretty interesting. My wife got really tired of listening to me talk about dentistry. Like I would sit down and I would just talk about dentistry all the time. And she'd just be like, Jonathan, I don't want to talk to you about this anymore. And so I'd reach out to even more people, and conversations were more and more interesting as my level of sophistication got higher. And eventually I said, hey, why don't I just hit the record button, and then I'll put it out there on iTunes for other people to listen to. And then, I'm really bad about naming things. Like I'm the worst about naming things. So I called it Start Your Dental Practice because I wanted it to be like an action type episode or a title, like go do something. And so it's called Start Your Dental Practice, like get started in doing it if you're on that edge. And now everybody thinks it's about startup dental practices, but it's not. It's just about being entrepreneurial in dentistry, basically. And then, the name of the CPA firm is Dentist Metrics, which again, everybody gets confused for a software company, which is, it's not. It's just about, emphasizing that the metrics can be important inside of dental practices. And so, that's really where it came from. That's really how I got into the whole podcasting thing, as I was talking to people anyways. Really valuable conversations. These people were giving away the information for free. They were talking to me for free. So I knew they'd be fine with, letting other people hear it. And so we started that. We started that almost 2 years ago at this point. And we've got about 90 episodes of Start Your Dental Practice out there. And it's fantastic. I love every minute of it.
Like a lot of information there. But it's so hard. People like being a dentist, me working from, I don't know, some days I'm working from 9 to 6 or 7. Fridays and Saturdays are short days, but either way, people don't really have a lot of time to listen to and do or implement things what you do. And that's probably it's a quick idea. People can go and doing their washing, driving, and they can listen to one of your podcast episodes and learn the basics out of it, at least. Well, that's indeed a good thing. My question still stays, how did you end up, you being a CPA is a different domain altogether. How did you get connected to the first dental client, or for that matter, the world of dentistry, I should say? How did you touch, brought the accounting and the dental? What made you bring together those two aspects?
Sure. So I was managing a CPA firm, which is a generalist CPA firm. So they helped everybody. We had clients that had, $1,000 a month in revenue, and we had clients that had $100 million a month in revenue. And I was managing that firm. And we had maybe a handful of dentists. I always find it funny whenever a dentist says to me, well, my CPA is not a dental CPA, but he has dental clients. So every CPA has a dental client. There's a lot of us out there. And so we had plenty of them. I was talking to we'd inherited a dental client from another dental CPA firm. And I looked at the return. I looked at how much they paid for that return, and I said, "This is way too much for what was quality of work that was given." I mean, it was exorbitant. It was $10,000 for just the tax return to be completed, and it was not very well prepared. There was a lot of things that I would have changed personally. And I said, "Okay, there's a lot of need in this industry." And then me wanting to not be copy off of somebody else. That's the reason we started that other company of being an outsourced CFO for dental practices, because we knew that there was a lot of not necessarily consolidation, but there was a lot of people trying to attempt roll-ups at the time. It seems like it's kind of simmered down quite a bit in the last 4 years of people realizing that you can't just lock arms with somebody else and all of a sudden you get 3 times the value of your practice. Like that's just not how it works anymore. So we were trying to help people basically get to a level where they could grow bigger, and we were going to come in as I actually had some CFO type experience in the past, working with some private companies, which were manufacturing companies. And then when we approached the first dentist that we we're going to do the outsourced CFO model with, we just told them. I mean, it's kind of like whenever I hear people doing implants for the first time, they'll say, that first patient, that they're not a training patient with someone watching over them or something like that. A lot of people have a very big psychological barrier to try to get over that. And so what a lot of people do is they'll say, Hey, Mr. Smith, I see what seems to be a very cut and dry implant with you. I haven't done one in my own private practice yet. I have all the training, I have all the equipment, and you seem like a perfect candidate for this procedure. I want to be upfront with you that I've not done one in this office yet. I've done plenty outside, or I've observed plenty, yada, yada, yada. And, in a way for me to be able to get more experience, and for you to not have to go and pay for a specialist a whole bunch of money to be able to do this, I'd love to be able to help you out today. And, normally we charge $3,500 for this, for everything. And for you today, since I'm being completely upfront with you, and obviously they have to know the person, we'll do it for $2,500 instead. And so it's a win for you. You pay way less than what you would for the specialist, and it's a win for the dentist because they get to go and do something. It's basically what we did with our first client. Was we said, hey, we've not done this, but we're really smart people. I had a business partner at the time. I said, we'll come in and we will look over everything from that we can, and we'll do our best to be able to help you reach whatever goals it is you have. So we're just upfront about it. And we did that, and we started doing that, and we did that for about 18 months. I actually split with that business partner about 10 months into it. And that's kind of whenever we started, that 10 to 18 month range was when we started transitioning away from being an outsourced CFO company to being a more dental CPA specific firm, just because it was, to be honest with you, there was a lot more work that we had to do in the outsourced CFO world, and I found that we could teach people better than we could do it for them, because that's one of my skills. I feel like is education. As evidenced by having 90 episodes or 90 hours of podcast out there, and so that's how it happened. I mean, that was how it first started, and here we are, 4 or 5 years later, and we are where we are.
Got you.
Yeah.
Well, that's an interesting story. It certainly brings in the real thing, especially somebody who spends so much time and energy with, real time and energy, because, you start fresh, you start small, and then you gain confidence, bring in more patients. Sorry, I'm talking about patients.
Yeah, sure.
Clients. I'm a dentist, right? So
sure.
That shows through.
Yeah, so, I try. A lot of the times I'll say patients instead of clients because I'm so used to saying it to other people as well. Yeah.
Clients. Yeah. I was talking to my wife the other day, and she was like, you know what? We should bring in more patients. Means clients,
I love it whenever I see all the Facebook marketing, like you get the ads that pop up and they say, find more leads for clients in your dental practice. I'm like,
exactly.
That's written
I don't even have one, right?
Yeah, that's 100% written by a marketer, not by a dentist. So
as I understand, so you had initial clients and you started talking to initial people, and they were all dentists, and you thought you can do a better job than anybody else, and you started recording them, basically, the consultants and things like that, and people who are who know a lot more about the dental world and accounting combined. So tell me one thing. So how much time did it take you to, start your dental podcast?
Yeah.
To practice?
Well, that's a good question. So I am very obsessive about a lot of things. I'm fairly decent about taking action on things, but I find that if I don't just like jump, just jump, I'm going to overthink things. And there's a lot of different mantras I try to live by. One being that complexity is the enemy of execution, and as well as that that simplicity trumps complexity on almost everything. So if you can keep it simple, you're going to do much better in most avenues. So for me, it didn't take very long. Like, literally, all I did was we used Google Hangouts. So and I still use that as a platform. And so I would just send somebody a link through email, and it records the audio and the video for you automatically. So I still to this day don't know how to record a video podcast, other than having Google Hangouts do it for me. And so we had that happen, and you download the MP4 once you're finished, and you can strip out the audio, and that's a podcast. That's all we did.
Cool. So basically, you were like, all right, you know what? Let's start. We'll see. Just jump right in, and we'll see how it goes. Yeah. You remind me of Tim Ferriss. I'm sure you must have heard about him. So Tim Ferriss, I'm a big fan of him. He's a very good interviewer.
Oh, and I was
So
terrible.
anyway,
I still feel like my interview skills are not the best in the world, but I try real hard. I try to ask good questions and try to
sure,
be as and dig as much as possible as
sure.
to be able to help people out. I do stutter a lot, and I do say and all those other things that most people do, and most people said that
Well,
that will go away, and I was like, okay, well, I'm on episode 90 now, and it still hasn't gone away just yet, but
but
maybe someday I will stop saying the word or whatever it is. But I'm from Arkansas. We think
I
slow,
think
so we
that's
talk slow.
where the our human thing comes into picture. Otherwise, it sounds too robotic. I mean, I've heard Tim Ferriss all the time. Don't get me wrong. He still stutters. He probably speaks slower than me sometimes. Because he's trying to make a big point out of it. So, and I was like, this guy has something what he digs in and he does. So, I am pretty inspired of him. And he said the same thing. I'm going to start with 5 episodes with his Tim Ferriss show, and I'll see where it takes me. I think that's where you are. Now you're at 90 episodes, and I think you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the little things just kind of fell in line. Once I decided to do it, I said, okay, I gotta find a logo, which like literally, if you look
Yeah,
at my logo, it's like something like a snapshot out of like a PowerPoint or something like that.
right.
And then gotta find a logo. We gotta find intro music, and we have to do an intro and all these other things. I still to this day, if you go to my YouTube channel, which we do a YouTube video as well with all of our
Yeah,
episodes,
we can.
you can see me on the very beginning, and it's literally from 2.5 years ago at this point. So I'm a much younger spry chicken at that point than my old age of 34. And you can see me on there. If you look real closely, you can see me reading the intro on my phone.
Oh,
I literally recorded that on my phone and had
yeah,
a ticker going across
yeah,
because I couldn't remember all the pieces that I wanted to say.
yeah,
And I'm a little bit better about that now. Like a lot of the times I can get through the things that I want to say as well as get all the points across. And if I forget it, I just say, I just forgot. It doesn't matter. Or I'll come back up to it later. I'll come
come
in
back.
there. So, yeah, you just kind of got to get out there and do it. And I actually hired somebody to do all that for me. I didn't even do it. Just
Okay,
because I knew if I was going to do it, I would overthink it. Like, what type of font do I need to have? How big should the font be in relation to the size of the photo? Should it be this color or that color? What do I need to do with this, that? I just paid somebody else to do it, and basically the first iteration that came back, I would say, yeah, do this or do that, and then I had to let it go at that point,
cool.
just to be able to be done with it. And then that same team still helps me today. I actually, again, since I'm so obsessive about things, I know if I were to, the way I relate to most people is like if I dip my toe into something, like I've got to I got to dive in at some point. And so with audio stuff, I just try and stay out and let other people jump in the pool for me. And I just talk. So like literally so I have producers that do the show for me. They do the audio editing, they do the video editing, they do the post and all that kind of stuff for the web, YouTube channel, all that stuff. They do all that for me. So I don't have to, bog myself down and actually doing all of that. Which is
Gotcha.
incredibly helpful. I couldn't, there's no way I would have gotten through even probably 15 episodes if I didn't have them doing most of it for me.
Right, right. So you're using a local company or your friends who is helping
It
you
was
out?
it was a referral from at the time it was a business coach. So yeah.
Okay, got it, got it. So let's talk about your podcast a little more. Like,
Sure.
tell me an interesting event, or an interesting thing that happened while you were, doing an interview, which is like, oh shit, I should have done that, or something, some blunder happened. I don't know. So which talks about the fun part of of your podcasting journey until now, episode 90.
Yeah,
Any
so there are, a few. They're not really that interesting. I wish it could be like, there was explosions going in the background, and there were,
yeah,
strippers coming in or something like that, or something funny
right,
like
right.
that, or somebody's kid ran in and they did the thing where the wife jumps in and grabs them and pulls them back. That didn't happen in any of my podcast episodes. The only thing that's happened with me, like little technical things, like I distinctly remember I was interviewing maybe the CTO of Weave, of the phone company. and the audio in Hangouts just started doing this really terrible echo. And it was like episode 20 or something like that. So I wasn't super, I'm not saying I'm super, amazing at podcast episodes now, but I'm obviously better than I was at episode 20. And like, I just like, I would say something and it would echo my voice like 3 seconds later. And so if I said anything that was longer than 3 seconds, I was hearing myself ask the question and like, I couldn't separate that. So another thing that's kind of interesting about me is I'm actually legally deaf out of my right ear, and I was actually born legally deaf out of both ears whenever I was born. And so actually, I'm actually pretty monotone. Like if I'm going to really talk to people, this is typically how I talk. If I'm going to actually say anything to someone, if I'm going to have a conversation with them. So unless I really try and influence my voice, that's how I come across. And the reason is because I grew up with such hearing issues that my otolaryngologist is constantly trying to get me to get hearing aids, but I'm like, I'm 34, I don't want to get a hearing aid just yet. And even though I can't hear anything out of this ear, so I have to try really hard to speak, and sometimes I can't hear people, and if audio issues come up, like it's really disturbing to me because I can't like my brain doesn't I guess
register that.
It doesn't register the same way as other people, or maybe it probably does register it the same. It was just it was just really off-putting. And so the last 10 minutes of that episode, I tried not to think about too much because like I was probably like, so do you think that weave is a good software? Like by the time I get to the end of the sentence, I'd forgotten what the first part of the sentence was because it kept like re-going in my earbuds, because you have to listen to your audio to be able to see what's going on. And so that one was really gritty. It was really painful to go through. But other than that, just little technical things, like sometimes the video would drop out or something like that. Nothing super bad. I think I had maybe our janitor walk in one time when we were doing an episode, but it's all things, you go back and you watch all 90 episodes, which go do that if you've got a free, 4 24-hour sessions to do, go just listen to all my podcasts or watch them on YouTube, and you'll know to this day, to my knowledge, we've never edited a single episode to actually cut things out other than just, dramatic audio issues that we have to restart or something like that. So if it's in there, it's still in there. I don't think we've ever cut away from anything significant.
So I think we should let this episode be sponsored by Weave, just because of the because of the that issue would happen that time.
And I researched so hard on that episode. Like I watched like 4 interviews they'd done in the past. I'd done all these, like I probably did the most amount of research for any episode I've ever done on that episode. And it was terrible. I felt like it was terrible.
That makes it honest, that we are trying. That's the real thing. Everybody makes mistakes and things happen. Some of it is a technical glitch for the most part. So,
and I didn't. If I had to do it all over again, I would have asked him at the end to reschedule and to do it over again. But at the time, I was like, this is a guy who owns, because he's actually the brother of the owner of the company, and he's a part owner of the company as well. And I was like, this is a guy that he's a really busy schedule, and we've been trying to get it together for a while. And if I had to go back again, I would have just asked to reschedule it. But you live and you learn. It's like I said, if you overthink things, then nothing ever gets done. I'm a big. I a lot of the times get paralysis by analysis, just because I'm wanting to make sure that everything is in tip-top shape. And I think that comes from being a CPA and making sure that your clients work is done well and you're giving great advice and things like that. Because there are definitive ways to do things, and so you have to make sure that it's done in the correct manner. And so I think that's where that probably comes from. But who knows?
How do you happen to find all those amazing speakers and the guests? How do you find them? Is it like from different podcasts that you're related to, or somebody recommends them to you? What makes you decide who will come on your podcast?
So for me, it was just asking people. If I thought they were interesting, I would ask them if they'd want to come on. And I guess back whenever I started it, it wasn't super easy just because
Right.
not that many people knew what a podcast was.
Right.
The very first one I did, I got really lucky, and strangely enough, when I started my company, Jamie Amos and I had connected whenever he was getting his company off. He'd already gotten his started, or had been doing it for a while. But we connected, and we, for some reason, we connected and hit things off very well. And like literally, we started a podcast at the exact same time. And so he was my first interview, and I was one of his first 10 or something like that.
Uh-huh. Cool.
So it was easy because he was a friend and he was somebody I could, relate to. And so that's how we got started. And that was the first one. I also got David Moffat was one of my first ones, which I'm still really happy that he did that for us. I think he may have been episode number 2 actually.
Right.
So it's to get somebody that you never met, an Australian that is an author that is a well regarded consultant in the industry, as one of your first guests, that helps out a lot. And then honestly, once you get those first few in, all you have to do is tell the next guest that, hey, I've had these people on, and then it's by association. They're like, well, Dr. Moffat did it. Then, surely it's a good idea.
Others start coming in.
Yep. So that's what we did.
Oh.
And I would only use people, and I still to this day, try to only use people that have been personally recommended to me by either clients or other guests. So I get a lot of people that reach out to me to try and be interviewed. And I don't interview a whole lot of them. Pretty much the only ones I'll interview are ones that I've already heard of, or ones that I've had somewhat of a first-hand experience with. Just because I'm very, very protective of my listeners. We've got a lot of clients that, or we've got a lot of listeners that are younger in their demographic, that are, a lot of associates, a lot of dental students, a lot of people that are, just getting out of dental school, some people that are just going into dental school. And to me, like, my nightmare is that I introduce someone that's a snake oil salesman in this industry, and they get, someone listens to it and falls for it or whatever it is. So I'm really protective of my listeners in that regard. Hey, ambitious dentists, I wanted to share a very special message from today's SYDP podcast sponsor, Gusto.com. As a CPA and accountant who has worked with hundreds of dentists and small businesses across the country, there's a handful of common issues I see hold so many dentists and small businesses back. Now, one is obviously bookkeeping, and another is managing payroll. Look, whether you're an aspiring dental practice, business owner, or you've had multiple years of business and practice ownership under your belt, managing payroll for your business is just one of those things you'll always have to do. Now, you know that I'm all about using every tool and resource that you can so that you can focus on what you do best, dentistry. Fortunately, there's a payroll tool that helps you do exactly that, and that tool is Gusto.com. Now, Gusto, it helps you process your payroll easily, efficiently, and best of all, it won't break the bank. Now, at the time of this episode in fall of 2017, you can get top quality payroll management for your practice for just $39 a month plus $6 per employee. I've seen some other solutions go for double, triple, quadruple, quintuple that amount and not even deliver half the value or be as easy to use. It's honestly one of the best payroll softwares I've ever used. And what I like about Gusto is it specifically helps ensure that you don't make those silly do-it-yourself bookkeeping mistakes that cost you money and time. You don't know how many times I've had clients, put in incorrect payroll deductions because their software allowed them to just kind of run it themselves. They have, advances that get stuck into a payroll journal entry and it keeps going month after month. And then the tax return's all messed up. And there's so many little pieces, missed payroll deposits, missed payroll report submissions to the governments. And for the price of less than the cheapest dental marketing software that you have, you can have Gusto.com manage your payroll and save you countless headaches. So as a SYDP listener, I don't recommend services or products often because of my incredibly high standards. In fact, with almost 100 episodes on the books, I can count on my two hands how many products and services I've recommended to you guys, which is why I can happily recommend Gusto as a solution to all of your payroll needs. Now, as a sponsor of the show, I've negotiated a deal with Gusto.com to get you 3 full months for free for your dental practice. Yep, 3 free months. Of course, it's a no-risk trial that you can cancel anytime. But I'm confident after giving them a try, you won't want to use anything else. Seriously, it's just that good. So to start your free trial, just go to gusto.com/dentistmetrics for your free trial for an easy-to-use, efficient payroll solution. Tell them Jonathan Van Horn from Dentist Metrics sent you. And now back to the interview. And again, that's gusto.com/dentistmetrics, METRICS.
Well, that makes, I think that's what makes a good podcast a good podcast, right?
Mm-hmm.
As I said, this is also just a podcast of dentistry, podcast. Wow, 2 times podcasting. So I'm also trying to learn, reach out to you guys, learn from all you guys. You guys have been doing amazing job.
Thank you.
Now, yeah, I always, as I said, I have been big fan of Tim Ferriss. Again, I'm repeating, sorry, but the idea is I have some questions which he asks his interviewers.
Okay, cool.
So, right. So let's talk a little bit about you in person.
Okay.
Are you a bass guitar player first or a dental CPA?
Well, I am definitely at this point in my life a dental CPA. Unfortunately, I wish I could still be. I wish I could still be a bass guitarist. I haven't picked up a bass guitar in 5 years, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's deep down there in my soul, and I definitely slap the bass guitar and air bass guitar pretty often. Like when a Red Hot Chili Peppers song comes on, I'll try and remember how to play, and I'll pretend like I'm up there in front of the crowd playing again. But actually, it's funny you mentioned that. I tell a lot of people that, and it's absolutely true, that is what really got me over public speaking. So, because I'm not an extroverted person, like in the least. Like I'm super introverted. Like I would prefer, over going to, a party with a bunch of people to sit at home and read a book or, study something. And so I'm not this big social animal. And so, public speaking is something that has always been a bit, frightening, I guess, to me. Not, I've definitely been apprehensive about it. And
right.
Really, and the podcast is a perfect version of that, because we'll have 6,000-7,000 people listen to the podcast every month, and I'll be like, basically the reason I can do it is because I played in a band for like 7 or 8 years, something like that, playing bass guitar, and we had some moderate levels of success. And at the same time, in the band, some people like your music and some people think it's like the worst music ever, because we were like a new age kind of rock, pop, funk type band. And some people thought it was amazing, some people thought it was terrible. And so, I was talking to my wife one night about it, and I was like, I'm afraid, I'm a little bit scared about putting this podcast out. And she was like, well, why do you care if if you look stupid in front of people? And I was like, because I don't want people to think I'm dumb. And she was like, believe me, there were hundreds of people at a time that thought you were dumb when you were playing bass guitar in front of them. Because, I would have I'd be jumping around and, slapping the bass and playing these crazy songs for people. And I thought, you know what? I didn't care what they thought about it back then. I was happy to do what I do because I was doing the best I could, and I was having a good time. And so that's what I do now too, is I do the best I can. I have a good time, and some people like it, fantastic. Some people don't. Too bad for them.
Great. So what was the name of your band again?
I had 2 bands I was in mostly. One was called 7 Foot Sharon, and the other one was called Duh Cellist. So it's D-I-E, is like the German Duh.
Right.
And cellist isn't like a cello player. There was no cello player in the band.
Okay.
But it was just, for whatever reason, we thought it would be interesting to use the word duh and then the word cellist as a band name. So
cool.
Those are the 2 main ones. And we had a little bit of success. We opened for Maroon 5 one time. We opened for some who were some of the other ones? There was a heavy metal band called Saliva that we opened for. We got to open for Tommy Lee and meet Tommy Lee at one point. So a lot of little cool things like that we got to do. So it was a really fun time of our lives. Yeah.
So, if you get to choose one of them, obviously you're a CPA right now,
Mm-hmm.
and taking care of the dental community, talking about the podcasting.
Mm-hmm.
What would you choose? The bass guitar player and the CPA, and you are allowed to choose once. What would you choose?
I would choose the podcasting just because the bass guitar piece was fun, but it was. I mean, I wouldn't have the time to do it, to be honest with you. We would literally practice 30 hours a week.
Yeah.
So, and that's just an example of me being just obsessive about things. Like we'd practice all the time when I was in high school and college. I played football in high school, and we did a lot of stuff. And I didn't play any sports in college, but I was definitely active in college, and we still found time to do those types of things. So rather than partying or things like that, that's what we did. Just, and me especially, just because I would just I would obsess over it. I'm saying 30 hours a week. That's probably actually estimating low. But we worked really hard on it, and that's a hard life too, unless you're just really lucky, unfortunately. So yeah, I definitely would say the podcasting, 100%. And I enjoy the podcasting so much. So yeah.
Right. Well, I think ultimately it is the fun part of it. That keeps us going. Otherwise, it's still another work that we need to do.
I mean, honestly, to me, the thing that keeps me going with it is, I'll get an email, once every week or so, that someone that's buying a practice, and they'll say, "Hey, listen to all 90 episodes of your podcast. You've been a huge influence to help me be able to know that I can do this."
Right.
And things like that are just, they warm the soul, if you will.
Yeah. It makes you feel really, really good and important at the same time.
Yeah, there's all those people that say, like, with their music, if you can influence just one person, it's all worth it, or whatever it is. I'm like, with a podcast, as long as I influence, about 500 people, then it'll be worth it.
We'll worry about it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Good. Yeah, that's now. What is the best purchase that you made in the last 1 year, between $100 to $300, that you think impacted you in a good way? Either it made you more productive, it made you awesome with your clients, podcasting, whatever, anything related to your life or business.
Last thing I purchased for $100 to $300.
The best thing. Yeah, anything.
The best thing. I mean, I guess it'd have to be I think the Zoom was actually like $400 or something like that. I'm looking around my office right now.
Well, that's fine. Zoom is not a bad choice, 400. Still, the idea is to tell something special, which you think is really, really important for, you and your life, which made a big impact.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we don't really, I'm not much of a spender. We just bought and renovated a house. So that's much more than $300, but that's where most of our money has gone over the past couple of years. As far as, the podcast equipment, obviously, but also, we buy things for the business for our employees. The stand-up desk that I'm using right now is in that range. That's been very helpful. If you're listening in, you can't see it, but I have a stand-up desk that is, it can raise and lower.
Yeah.
Showing a little bit of the headquarters here.
Wow.
And that's very helpful to me, just personally, because as a CPA, we sit down a lot. And I like to. It's very helpful to lift it up and stand up and actually let your blood flow a little bit. If I change projects, I can put it back down, and I sit back down. It feels like I'm on a whole new project, and it's kind of a different feeling. And so, it keeps me from sitting down, 9-10 hours a day. So I can actually stand. I'll probably do about 50-50 now, half standing up, half sitting down. So, this would be a pretty good version of it. I think it was more than $300, but also, it still is very helpful.
For our listeners, or your listeners and my listeners, I think you should send me a link to the stand-up desk just in case they want to buy, right?
Yeah, it's called a Vari desk. VARI desk is where we got it from. You can just go to VARIDESK.com,
Okay.
and they have them there. And there's a bunch of different types of it that help. And I've actually bought some of my employees this as well to help
Right.
them because they wanted to do the same thing to be able to have that stand up ability. I'll send it to you in the chat box.
On the side note, how many how many employees do you have in your office?
Yeah, so we have 5 full-time employees. We have 2 part-time people, and we have some marketing people too.
Got it.
We only have one other than myself that's in the office. Everyone else works from home. So
Okay. Okay. Right. So, what do people never ask you that you wish they did?
what do people never ask me? Well, I get asked a lot of people ask me a lot of questions. So one of the things that people tend to focus a lot on. I mean, there's a few subjects I like to talk about. There's just a lot of misconceptions in the CPA world,
Right.
and as well as in the dentistry world. So I could approach this from a bunch of different fronts. I could approach it from the tax front. I could approach it from the dental consulting front. I could approach it from just a client service front. But really, to me, probably the biggest misconception in dentistry is that the business side of things, you can do things better. There is to me, there's a very, very easy way to be able to figure out how to do things better. And I hear a lot of people talk about, they'll hear something about like this doctor did this and made all this money, or did all this, or did all that, or did all this, yada 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 yada. And you'll see it in Facebook posts, you'll see it on Dental Town, you'll see it everywhere, and they'll say, well, we can't do that because of this.
Okay.
And so to me, the biggest way to be able to kind of solve all those issues is to really be very, very self-aware with yourself. Learn how to realize whenever you're having what's called a limiting belief. A limiting belief is something that you're basically just making an excuse. You're making an excuse that something doesn't apply to you because of some external factor. And there could be external factors that limit you from doing some things, but most of the time it's something that's in your head rather than something that's an external factor. There's ways to get around it, things like that. So to me, nobody ever asked me about self-awareness, which is a big thing. I'm a big fan of self-awareness. And I honestly believe it is the main piece of being a good business person, is being self-aware and understanding yourself, your limitations, your strengths, and then working towards fulfilling all those different pieces.
How do you think somebody can actually be more self-aware than what he or she is right now?
To be honest with you, probably the best thing to do is to spend 5 minutes every morning just thinking about the day, thinking about the day before. Some quiet reflection is really important. I enjoy guided meditation.
Cool.
That's
what do you use, Headspace or the Calm?
I use Headspace. Yeah. I don't do it all the time, but I can tell you, 100% the times and the phases I go through when I do guided meditation in the morning, those are more productive days. Those are more fulfilling days. And I just feel better in those time frames when I'm actually, I wake up in time to be able to do it. And we've got 2 young kids, so sometimes it's harder than not to do that. But it's 100% worth it. So spending time meditating is really good. If you spend time journaling, that's very good too. I'm a huge tech junkie. Like, I love efficiency. I am, every one of my employees knows, like, I talk to them every quarter about this. I say, if there is anything that you feel like you're being inefficient in, let's figure out a way to be able to solve this. I don't care if it costs me $1,000, $2,000, $5,000 to be able to do it for you, as long as we have some type of expected return on that efficiency gain, I'm more than willing to invest that in you or in software or in, peripherals or hardware or computers or whatever it may be.
Right.
And, you just have to prove to me that it's worth it. And to me, to be able to be efficient, you have to be able to, be productive. I mean, you've got to actually, there's only so much software can do for you and technology can do for you. The rest of it comes down to yourself. And so, but one thing that I like that's not technology driven is I'm a very big fan of handwritten notes. I love handwritten notes. I love to write notes. I've got, I've bought, probably 100 notepads in the past 4 years that I've just gone through of writing notes on things. I'm nearing getting rid of another one right now. I've been trying out this new thing called Rocketbook. I can't show you too much because there's client type information in here, but it's basically like a ledger page that you can write notes in, and then whenever you do it, I also have a leather bound thing to be able to keep my notes in. It looks more professional and it's easier to keep up with. But this Rocketbook, what Rocketbook does is you write notes on it, and at the bottom there's like 5 different emblems. You just put a little X on the emblem, and it will, if you can take a picture with your phone of the page, and it'll automatically do something based off of the emblem at the bottom. So for example, I use Evernote to store all of my notes because I don't just keep the notes and throw them away. I scan them into Evernote, and then I sort them into a file system that I've created for myself so that I can reference them in the future. And so all I have to do is snap a picture with my phone, and it'll automatically send that Rocketbook page to Evernote. And whenever I'm done with that, there's only a certain amount of pages in there. All I have to do is wipe it off with a damp washcloth, and it will clear the page, and I can just use it over again. So I've been using that instead of ledger paper recently, and I like it somewhat, but there's still just something about using a legal notepad and writing my notes down and collecting my thoughts. So yeah, those are things that you can do 100%. And, I know, like you said, you're a fan of Tim Ferriss. I know he's very big on those types of things. I'm not into I'm not much. And I tried doing the cold showers thing that he talks about and like all that kind of stuff. I was like, that didn't really do it for me. So I found the same, the same, results if I would just go work out or something like that, which I also don't do enough of.
Right. So I think he also talks about, you started talking about the morning ritual. So how would your first 1 hour or 1.5 hours before you go to work would look like? What time would you start up?
So in a perfect world, I've gotten off of it. In a perfect world, I'd be waking up around 5:30, and for me, I would get up, I would get some water, I'd start coffee, I'd get out a book, and I'd read for about an hour. Just for whatever it is I'm wanting to read at that time. And I'd drink coffee or drink water or both for that first hour, maybe have my breakfast while I'm reading. And then once that's finished, I would exercise, not super hard, just enough to kind of get my adrenaline going, and then meditate. Then I'd plan out my day, just trying to plan out what I'm going to do for the rest of the day, from a project-based perspective. Pull up my calendar, see what meetings I had for the day, and then fill in those gaps as I went. I try to keep about, somewhere between 25 and 30-minute increments on my schedule to be able to have that taken care of. And if you're a doctor or you're a dentist, you've got your schedule already kind of ahead of you in that regard. But basically, you could use that time to fill in the empty spaces in between. I keep all of my tasks separated by me personally, and this would be different for everybody. I have my work column, I have my marketing column, and then I have my product column. So when I say product, I mean, like, to me as a service provider, we can't just sit there and say, okay, we're just going to do what we're doing today. We've still got to be evolving. So for me personally, we work on things such as building out narratives for people about different types of deductions that they can get, doing research into more advanced types of tax deductions that they may be qualified for, communicating to clients more, setting up meetings, things like that. On the accounting side, it's things like, right now we're working with a developer as well as the designer to be able to give us better looking reports that can be easier to read as well as more powerful for our clients from their accounting perspective.
Right.
And then also I have another tab or column that's like other. And then I just do, that's basically everything else that I've got, maybe personal stuff, things like that. And then from there, I have those 4 columns. And besides each of those, I try to do, basically like a unit of measurement of how important it is. Like I put the most important ones at the top, and I try and estimate how much time it's going to take me to do those. That way, if like during the day I finish something very quickly and I've got an extra 10 minutes, I can do something that's a very small thing and just knock it off of my to-do list and get that going. So I have a to-do list and then I have my schedule for the day. And I don't do it now. I used to do it a lot more. But I would do my to-do list every day. I would write down everything on my to-do list every day. And then below that, I would do my schedule for the day. And I would just basically take things from my to-do list and put it in my schedule. And then at the end of the day, I would mark off all the items I got done. And then the next day I would redo my to-do list and then add things in as I thought of them throughout the day on that first page. And so I'd consistently be, being productive and things like that.
So did you use the paper version of it, or do you have any specific app or something?
I did by paper. I did that by paper. Yeah.
Okay. Right. And
I do use Todoist for like everyday task. But other than that, that's all I use for that.
Right. So what is the most productive trick that you can offer? You said you are very, try to be as productive as possible. Mm-hmm. What is the easiest trick that people can learn from you, which is going to make them a lot more productive? How would you even differentiate? Which task should I go to? How would you prioritize, basically?
I do what I said. I would think of 3, maybe 4 max different types of work that you do every day. So if you're if you're a dental practice, you're going to have your dentistry, obviously. You're going to have your management. You're going to have, which could be anything from, you could subdivide that into other tasks and other categories, which could be, marketing or, employee relations or, patient relationships or training or whatever it may be. You might have something that's, business education or something like that, or clinical education. And you could probably put that under services or product, basically. And then you kind of have all of your other personal things. And then you come up with some type of time unit that you'd estimate each task to be able to, that you need to complete. And then, as the day goes on, whenever you get that 10 minutes in between a patient, you just, instead of you checking your phone and checking your email or jumping on Facebook or whatever it may be, you sit down and you just knock one of those things off your list. If you do that, that's incredibly productive, because there are a million things that everyone tries to get done every day, and a lot of things go by the wayside. But if you write them down, it gives you a lot of power.
Got you. So you believe in, the paper and the pen and paper power.
I am, and I'm also a big believer in, for goal setting. Like if you have, let's say I talked to someone today actually about, he said, he's known how to do implants for a long time. He's had all the training, he's got all the equipment, all those other types of things. He just can't get over the hump. I said, when we get off the call today, I said, get a piece of paper out and write down the date that you're going to have your first implant done by, and just write it down and say, right now it's July 28th of 2017. I said, let's say it's going to be November 1st. And write down, by November 1st, I'm going to place my first implant on one of my patients. And I said, once you do that, you have a date. And I said, and then from there, fill everything you need to do between today and that day to make that a reality. So that might be, contacting an oral surgeon in your area to learn from, or to have as a backup plan if you need them. It could be to, researching what equipment you need if you don't have all of it right now. It might be, finding the right patient or finding the right type of implant you want to be placing, and just fill the gaps, have that expectation set, and then just work towards that goal. Once you have all those little things figured out on a piece of paper of all the things you need to do, Guess what?
Yeah.
Now you've got a to-do list, and you can do exactly what we just talked about. So
Right. Great. Now,
it sounds really simple, by the way. People are probably like,
it's tough. No.
people are like,
To be honest,
people are
yep.
probably like, that's really simple. But believe me, if you sit down and do it, like it works. It really works.
Right. No, I think it's one of the toughest things to do. For me, personally speaking, prioritizing. Like I was jotting down notes when you were talking about being a dental practice. How to manage, blah blah blah. So it helps me too. But I think the toughest part is trying to decide what is the most important thing.
Sure.
How to prioritize. I understand you have 10 minutes extra. You can take care of the small thing, but I think that's where the self-awareness, I think the meditation and being calm comes into the game, which being a dental office and, working as a dentist or in the dental world is pretty tough. Not everybody has that kind of energy.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that, again, paralysis analysis will get you, because if you sit down worrying about what's the most important thing to do every time, you're not going to get anything done. So get it on a list and take that thought out of there. You just hit whatever you want to do at that point in time. As long as you don't let your list be, 100 miles long, which sometimes it is. And if that's the case, then you're going to need to spend a little bit extra time, thinking about, okay, this is really important and this can kind of wait. And, it just comes whenever you do that. But basically, whenever you're trying to figure out what to do next, if you find yourself thinking about that self-awareness, one of the things about being self-aware is that if you are self-aware and you start doing something like that, you can usually realize that that's happening. That's the importance of being self-aware of. I'm spending too much time trying to think about what to do. I'm just going to do something. And so you do one that's off of your list. Guess what? Let's say there's 10 things on your list and you just do one. Well, even if it wasn't the most important one to do at that exact time, guess what? Next time you got a 1 out of 9 shot of having the most important thing being done one way or the other.
Right.
I mean, so you've increased your chances by, like 4% to be able to do the next best thing. And it's not like the other thing wasn't important, because it was on your list. It had to be important. It had to be something that was in your mind or in your thoughts to be doing. So yeah, that's how I kind of look at it.
Got it. Now, coming back to your podcast, what do you think what are your 3 favorite episodes out of those 90?
I have so many now. My 3 favorite. Let me pull up a list real quick. I can tell you the most listened to ones. My favorite ones, I really like the one I did recently about how to pay off your student loans with Travis Hornsby. It was a really good one because I know it was very, a lot of people needed to hear that. I had a really good one with Dr. Daryl Dopp that was fairly recent. And I'm a little bit, I'm a bit biased because my ones that are more recent are going to be the ones that I'm going to probably remember the most. I had a really good one with Dr. Justin Short about how to work less while still growing your practice. That was a really fun one. I like Dr. Justin a whole lot. Both the one, I think I may have done 2 or 3 at this point with Dr. Costas. He's always really fun to hang out with. He's a good friend of mine. Let's see. I had a really good one with, I've had a couple of really good ones with Dr. Holmes, Anissa Holmes. I definitely have to say one of my favorite ones was how to buy a dental practice with Hunter Smith. Dr. Hunter Smith has, I think like 7 or 8 practices at this point. He's been really fun. He was a phenomenal guest and just a really nice guy. He's a fellow Arkansan, so go Woo Pig Suey. I had a really good one called Why You Need a Strategic Plan. Again, I've got a lot of them, so I do not have 3 favorite. I just have a lot that I really enjoy. And if you didn't get on, if you're a listener and you've been on the episodes before, it's not because I didn't love your podcast episode. It's just because I have so many that I just really enjoyed. So
great. Okay, that's fair. Well, we'll let the listeners decide. And which one is the most downloaded or most listened podcast episode?
It's definitely the first one, the one with Jamie. We've got almost 2,000 people listen to that one. So yeah.
Cool. Nice. Great. So I'm sure you have had more than 90 guests, around 90 guests on your podcast, who did you have a lot of information come from, but you couldn't take a second interview because there was a lot to ask for in 1 hour, and you couldn't go for a second round with him? Who would you think that guest might be?
I had a really good
Or
one. I had a really good one with Kerry Strain, and he's Strain Consulting. He's a really great guest, really smart guy. He was actually a CPA before he became a dental consultant. So we had a lot of things in common, and so he was a really good one. That I'm sure I could have him back on if you wanted me to, if you wanted to, if I wanted to. It's just we book out quite a bit in advance, and sometimes it's a little bit difficult to get people in. But yeah, so that was a really good one. I could probably talk to almost everyone for 4 or 5 hours if I wanted to. So because we've had so many
sure,
great guests.
right,
But
right,
yeah, so that was when Dr. Costas. He's always fantastic.
yeah,
So yeah.
great. Now, I also know that you do have. I actually saw that you have a freebie which you actually talk about, and you have it on your website, dentistmetrics.com. It's about starting the dental practice, right? Is that right? You have a freebie or on your front page.
Yeah, I have a lot of things. We have a lot of
Mhm.
content that we put out, and
Great.
it's all really high value, and 99% of it's free. So if you just go to dentistmetrics.com, you can download a lot of that. So yeah, we've got a lot.
Got it.
And right now, actually, we also have a contest going on for the podcast, which is I've got my 4 favorite books that I recommend all of our listeners read.
Great.
And basically, if you just text the word for FOUR books BOOKS to 33444, then you'll get. I'll share with you what those 4 books are, as well as enter you into a contest to win all those for free. And we're going to be doing a drawing with that here in about 2 or 3 weeks.
Got it. So once again, we need to send the text to FOURBOOKS
Yep, all one word.
at all in one word at 33444, and that is the contest where the results come out in 3 weeks. You said
Yeah, somewhere around the end of August.
end of August. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, almost a month now.
Yeah.
Great. Do you want to recommend any specific books, uh, for the new dentist or the new dental practice owner, or for that matter, anybody who wants to learn the best in life kind of scenario?
Yeah. So how about this? I'll give you the ones that are the one that is probably the most business related that's going to be available that most people will enjoy, will probably think is interesting is my favorite one. And it's a little bit more business oriented. It's called Scaling Up by Vern Hanish.
Yeah.
It's a really good book about just what it takes to make a business big. Most dental practices aren't going to even need probably they're not going to need a lot of what's in that book as far as organizational structure, but it'll really unlock your mind to show you like what it is that goes into business, so that you can then reflect yourself onto the different positions inside of the book. So it's
Okay.
scaling up by Vern Hanish.
All right. So that's the first book. Do you have any other book would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I've got at least 4. So if you text to
Yeah,
the
that's
4
a
books,
that's
then you'll get access to all of those.
all right.
But let's see. I mean, one that's not on there of the list of the 4 that I share is one of my personal favorite books, and it has more to do with the personal reflection and self awareness. And it's a book that a lot of people read. I didn't know this. I didn't read it whenever I was in school. Is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho.
Right, I've
Um,
read that.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's one of those that you either really enjoy it or you just hate it type books. And I really enjoyed it. It's a giant allegorical fiction book,
Yeah.
and really that book was really one of the ones that made me decide to get out of managing somebody else's business and become my own business owner. So it's called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. It's one of my favorite books. I'll probably read it at least once a year. And it's a very quick read too.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Good to know. Anything that you would like to talk to your audience, whether it's at Pods, the Podcasts of Dentistry, or at Start Your Dental Practice with dentistmetrics.com. Anything that you would like to talk to them or say before we part today?
Yeah, I mean, if you're already a listener, thank you so much for being a listener. I work really hard for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. If you're not yet a listener, come on over. And the water's warm. We really enjoy having new people in, and you'll be in good company.
Great. Thank you, John. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your time and your patience, and sharing not only the dental aspect or the business aspect, but part of your life, because I think that's how people get connected. That's how people feel connected to somebody and feel that oh, I think he's a nice guy. I should reach out to him. I should if they have any questions, they become more. You become easily contacted, and they can relate to you once we have all this kind of information shared. So thank you for sharing all the information here.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Panks. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate you thinking of me, and I hope that hope this helps you with your podcast journey, and so that you can start giving back to the dental community, just like everybody, just like all the other dental podcasts. So,
right,
more than happy to have you in.